Force and Space Force fly, fight, and win in airspace and cyberspace. Warfighters are no longer fighting a visible foe as our adversaries attack our cyber systems. Bad actors seek to disrupt U.S. and warfighting capabilities and exploit our vulnerabilities. The Department of Defense must capture and accelerate emerging technologies to be prepared for future conflicts in order to maintain our nation's position as the preeminent force. The Catalyst Accelerator competitively selected 8 diverse companies whose innovative ideas and cutting-edge technologies in the area of cyber for space applications will ensure our warfighter cyber resiliency and secure the next generation of space and cyber assets. Catalyst Accelerator. Collaboration, innovation, and acceleration for the U.S. warfighter.
Hi, welcome to Demo Day, the culmination of 13 amazing weeks focused on cyber for space applications. I'm Captain Keith Hudson from AFRL Space Vehicles Directorate and the government lead for this accelerator.
And I'm Kamar Gartman, the Catalyst Accelerator Program Director. On behalf of Catalyst Campus and the Catalyst Campus for Technology and Innovation, I'd like to welcome you to Demo Day for Cyberspace Applications. We are excited to have you with us. And before we get started, I would like to thank our corporate sponsor, Booz Allen Hamilton, who donated a very generous financial gift to our companies to be able to offset the cost of participating in the accelerator. Thank you, Booz Allen Hamilton. I would also like to thank our platform sponsor, Linquist. Linquist offered the support that we needed to make this accelerator completely virtual. So thank you, Linquist. And finally, I would like to thank Lockheed Martin for the support that they've given us to have this demo day. Lockheed Martin, our demo day sponsor, we thank you for that as well. So now I'd invite you to sit back, listen to the video that's about to play from our corporate sponsor, Booz Allen Hamilton.
Accelerating decisions is critical for space superiority. Booz Allen advances space technology to help you rapidly turn information into action. By combining open, scalable architectures with data analytics and artificial intelligence, enhancing human decisions with automation to push intelligence to the edge. Engineering new ways to develop tomorrow's space systems today. Through the power of information, we partner with you to protect freedom of action in space. Faster decisions, open systems, sustaining space superiority, driving information to action.
Thank you, Booz Allen Hamilton. And now I would like to turn our attention to another group of companies and individuals who have supported this accelerator in an amazing way. They have offered hundreds of hours to our cohort companies in mentorship, giving them advice, helping them make the connections they need to be successful. These individuals are whom we call our commercial Sherpas. And so I want to offer a special thanks to Booz Allen Hamilton, to Linquist, to Lockheed Martin, to Microsoft, Viasat, General Dynamics Information Technology, Sierra Nevada Corporation, and Sev1 Tech. These companies have been amazing, and our program wouldn't be nearly as great as it is without these individuals who want to pay it forward. So thank you to all of these companies for your support of the accelerator, and I look forward to you audience members being able to meet these individuals throughout this demo day.
This accelerator would not be possible without the amazing contributions of our subject matter experts from across the DoD, DOE, and commercial sector. It is truly due to their dedication and flexibility, as well as the contributions of other stakeholders, partners, and Sherpas that ensured that we were successful during these past 13 weeks of our first fully virtual accelerator. AFRL recognizes these connections and partnerships will perpetuate long after our program is over, further benefiting the warfighter for years to come. Thank you to everyone who contributed. To kick off today's event, we are honored to have opening remarks from Brigadier General Jason Cothern, who serves as the Vice Commander, Space and Missile Systems Center, Los Angeles Air Force Base, California. He is responsible for assisting the commander in managing the research, design, development, acquisition, and sustainment of space and missile systems, command and control, launch and operational satellite systems. The Space and Missile Systems Center is the nation's center of technical expertise for military space acquisition, with approximately 6,000 employees nationwide and an annual budget of $9 billion. Take it away, General Cothern.
Well, hello everybody. I'm Brigadier General Jason Cothern, and I'm the Vice Commander here at the Space and Missile Systems Center at Los Angeles Air Force Base in El Segundo, California. I'm also the Program Executive Officer for our space enterprise, which includes responsibilities for the defensive cyber operations for space. I'd like to give a big shout out to Captain Hudson and Miss Gartman for helping to assemble today's event. I also want to thank everybody else behind the scenes and all the corporate sponsors. This is certainly pretty amazing that we continue to move the ball forward. We continue to have these virtual events in the midst of the interesting times we live in the COVID pandemic. It's just amazing to continue to see the partnerships and the way that we're able to continue in this virtual environment. So I want to thank everybody for that and for giving me the opportunity to speak here. In my role as Vice Commander here at SMC, I assist the Commander, Lieutenant General John Thompson, in leading the 6,000 men and women here at the Center in acquiring, developing, sustaining, and launching our space assets, our critical space assets, and our ground systems and ground segments. I'd like to start with a few examples of some of the systems that we acquire here at the Space and Missile Systems Center. You're probably all aware of the GPS system. We are responsible for that 31 satellite GPS constellation. Originally intended to provide global navigation, the GPS signals have provided trillions of dollars in unanticipated value for the global economy. Also, we work on secure communications satellites. We design and build those to provide a link to America's sons and daughters all over the world, defending freedom, to ensure they have a link back to real-time support and communications, and also providing communications not only for those deployed forces, but also for our allied partners across the world. In addition, we acquire infrared missile warning systems that monitor the planet for missile launches and provide advanced warning for capabilities to ensure that the homeland is protected against any missile launches in the world. Today I'd like to discuss some of the threats that pose the greatest danger to United States interest in space, and some of the initiatives we here at SMC are engaging in to ensure that our future technologies are secure and resilient to cyber threats, and that we can maintain cyber resiliency. And this is the place where I think we need your help the most. We're in a new century of warfare now. We've kind of gone beyond just the traditional domains of air, land, and sea. Now we're into the domains of cyber and space. It's important to emphasize that these two domains are by no means mutually exclusive. Our advanced space systems are basically linked computers flying through space in some of the harshest places known to humanity. In that space domain, we've seen a lot of activity from certain countries, notably China and Russia, that have challenged the peacefulness of these global commons in space. In 2020, DoD released an annual report to Congress on the 1st of September that indicated China is developing anti-satellite capabilities to include electronic jammers, directed energy weapons, and most relevant to today's audience, offensive cyber capabilities. Kinetic threats like on-orbit kill vehicles or anti-satellite weapons are very easily detected by radar or optical systems, but cyber attacks are not so easily detected. And a cyber attack unseen against a critical command and control site or against the satellite itself could have devastating effects, especially if those satellites are things like GPS, where the civilian community is very dependent on those systems. Furthermore, our foreign adversaries are constantly engaged in intellectual property theft in order to gain technological advantage and accelerate their internal development programs. As of 2019, data exfiltration efforts by our adversaries account for an average of approximately 6.5 million documents stolen a day. That's approximately 270,000 documents per hour. Solving these issues are going to take strong partnerships from both our traditional industry partners and our new partners in the startup and small business world, folks like you. We're committed to working together with our system of developers, whether they be traditional industry partners or new startups, to bake cybersecurity into our systems and not bolt it on after the fact. The Catalyst Campus collaboration space in Colorado Springs provides a unique opportunity where industry, operators, and developers can test and deploy defensive cyber capabilities quickly and efficiently, and enables cyber resiliency across the entire space enterprise. As I mentioned previously, our foreign adversaries aren't just hacking satellites, they're pilfering intellectual property. That's why our CIO is working a multi-million-dollar effort to reduce exfiltration of sensitive program data and collaborate with industry in ways in which to secure the networks we use for developing and maintaining our system data. Cyber threats can change on a daily basis, so speed and agility are critical elements in our acquisition plans for our next generation capabilities. And I'm excited to see events like today's that bring innovators with cutting-edge ideas and technologies together to partner with us in finding solutions to the hard problems in cyberspace. America invests billions of dollars annually to develop new space assets to bolster our national security. We must ensure that the systems we're building are defended both in development and in the field. Our adversaries are well-funded and persistent, but with teammates like you, I know we'll rise to the occasion and build a secure foundation for our critical space assets. I'd like to conclude by saying that the United States Space Force is dedicated to enhancing efforts to protect our space assets from evolving cyber threats and the cyber vulnerabilities we see in the world. SMC is committed to working with industry and international partners to strengthen our cyber resilience. Our men and women are working tirelessly to this end. I want to thank everyone involved again for giving me the opportunity to speak. Our continued national security is dependent on partners like you, and I can think of no finer venue than the Catalyst Campus to communicate and accelerate these critical ideas. Thank you, and Semper Supra.
Hi, my name is Evan King. I'm a computer scientist at AFRL Space Vehicles Directorate, and I am the government problem sponsor for the fall 2020 cohort of the Catalyst Accelerator. Now, in drafting the problem statement, there were really three key considerations that my team wanted to get across. The first is that satellites are important. They provide global positioning and timing, they provide global imaging, they provide communications. Without them, a lot of activities in the public and private sectors would grind to a halt. So we rely on them, and we should protect them. The second thing to consider is that space is now a contested domain, and this is actually new. Coming out of the first space race in the 60s and 70s, the United States really emerged as the dominant power in space. That's no longer true today. We have near-peer adversaries with comparable capabilities, so that changes the strategic landscape somewhat. Which brings us to the third thing to consider, which is that in any domain, to include space, cyber attacks are often the cheapest and hardest to attribute means of denying operations. What that means is that in a military conflict, the likelihood of a cyber attack being carried out against a US space asset is pretty high. That means that we need to start thinking about satellites and space from a cybersecurity perspective. Now, there are some unique technical considerations when you get into space cyber resiliency. The first and foremost is that with any space mission, you have to think about SWAP, and that stands for size, weight, and power. What that means is that satellites are highly resource-constrained embedded systems, a lot different from a traditional IT asset or network on the ground. So any sort of cyber technology that we try to apply to a satellite has to take that into account. You have limited processor capability, you have limited memory space, you have limited storage space, you have limited power, and you often have a real-time constraint. You have to run in real time. So satellites are, at the end of the day, cyber-physical systems. They're a lot like a modern car or any sort of highly integrated system of hardware and software. So that changes the cybersecurity sort of implications for the system somewhat. In the big picture view, I like to break the space cyber problem into really two bins. You have legacy systems and you have future systems. And in each bin or in each category, the considerations are somewhat different. For legacy systems, we're talking about satellites that are very expensive, often multi-billion-dollar programs, and they're flying in GEO, which is about 22,000 miles away. And they're highly resource constrained. We're probably not going to change them anytime soon, right? Because they're expensive, but we still rely on them for a lot of important capabilities. So all of the constraints with that are interesting, and they affect the way that we need to think about hardening from a cybersecurity perspective those systems. The second bin is future systems. These are things that we're building today and that we will be flying within the next 10 years. The concept of operations for these systems are often really unique. We might be talking, for instance, about a swarm of small satellites that are working together in a distributed fashion to provide capability. The cybersecurity implications of that are interesting. How do we secure the communications between the satellites? How do we think about the cybersecurity of that system from a complex adaptive systems perspective? That's a new and unique technical challenge, and it's a lot different from the challenges that we face with IT cybersecurity. Another example might be an autonomous satellite that makes decisions and flies itself, right? This is a lot like self-driving cars, right? How do we think about those types of systems from a cybersecurity perspective? And how do we apply those cybersecurity technologies given the constraints of space? The space architecture for future systems is also different. Rather than flying single assets in GEO, we're talking about flying distributed systems in something called proliferated LEO. This is an architecture of many small satellites that are working together in a networked fashion to provide a capability. The cybersecurity landscape for that is different, both on the ground and in space. We might be talking about a distributed architecture of ground stations that allow us to maintain continuous contact with the distributed proliferated LEO system flying in space. So these are very interesting technical challenges that we have. And while there might be overlap between cybersecurity technologies that we use on the ground to solve these problems, there's also a lot of unique and interesting considerations that come into play when you're talking about space cyber. So that's really the motivation behind the problem statement. How do we transition and develop new technologies that allow us to, at the end of the day, secure our space-based capabilities and make sure that we have them available for public and private use for years to come. With that, I'd like to say I think we have a very cool and exciting group of companies that have been going through the fall cohort, and I'd like to thank them for all their hard work in developing their technology and their business models during the duration of this accelerator. It's very exciting stuff. And I'd also like to thank my colleagues at the Space Force Accelerator for all their hard work putting this stuff together, and of course the folks at Catalyst, the Catalyst Accelerator, who have done an amazing job with the accelerator this fall. Thank you.
Thank you, Evan, for that outstanding overview and your support of the Cyber Accelerator.
The 8 companies in this cohort have developed amazing technologies to ensure cyber resiliency and to secure the next generation space assets and capabilities. It's now time to hear their bold solutions. So let's jump into our first company. Our first company is Lightloop Technologies out of New York. Presenting for us today is Ohad Harlev, CEO of Lightloop. Take it away, Ohad.
Hello, my name is Ohad Harlev from Lightloop, and we are going to build hyperscale data centers in space. But it's a little bit more than that. It's not about just building data centers in space. It's about storing data in motion, storing data on light, i.e. the data is stored between the satellites on photons, not on the satellites. And the reason that we're dealing with data so much is that every single thing that we do is data, both on the personal, commercial, and military life. It's become a cornerstone of who we are. But the way that we store data today is the same way that we've been storing data for decades. It's on a hard disk, in a data rack, in a building, we're calling that building today a data center, cloud, edge, but at the end of the day, it's bits on a hard drive. And the problem with that is that one, it takes way too much power, which means we need to bring in a lot of infrastructure and cool it down. Secondly, we need to add layers of cybersecurity. We'll elaborate about that quite a lot today. It's not scalable enough. We need to add more and more data centers faster and faster as we become more data dependent, and we're not building them fast enough. And every single data center is a building. It means it's sustainable to force majeure, to adversaries, it's not movable, and there are certain laws and jurisdiction that will apply to it, but we may not want to. The solution is storing data in motion in endless loops of light. For example, in space. But it's not just about space. We have 4 main applications. The tube and the satellite replace data centers. That means they can store hundreds of petabytes and exabytes of data. And the cavity and the fiber replace storage within a data center or within a building. But they all work exactly the same. It's all about storing data on light. An example of how it will work in space, it looks something like 2 satellites having photons go back and forth and back and forth. And when we looked at it that way, when we started 5 years ago, we started with geostationary satellites, which can still work. But it's all about creating paths. It's all about creating more distance for the photons to travel. And if that's the case, then why not go to LEO? Why not use smaller satellites? Using our patented angle multiplexing, we can really create multiple paths, thousands of paths, which will mean that it will look something like this, which was pretty cool when it was a patent. It was even cooler when it was a simulation, but in reality, it's amazing. This is a light drive. We are storing data here in our lab in New York on light. We've done it in free space, we've done it in fiber, we've stored it for 30 days, traveling 300 billion kilometers, fully read-write, fully redundant, fully self-healing, and it works. Going back to space for a minute, it will look something like this, where you have 2 constellations. Everything of course has to be doubled up. Data goes around and around in endless loops, again, between the satellites, and the access is using gateway satellites. Could be lasercom, could be RF, multiple ways of doing that. And we are storing real amounts of data. For example, if you have 300 satellites, you can store 2 exabytes of data. Now, not all of you are familiar with what an exabyte is. I wasn't until not so long ago. But 1 exabyte is the biggest data center, commercial data center being built today. So 2 exabyte is double the biggest data center being built today, which means this is a real hyperscale storage data center. The only question is, okay, so we can build it, but why? And the answer is because it gives huge amounts of value. First of all, it gives increased security. You're adding 3.5 layers of cybersecurity. 1, data is moving at the speed of light in space, which means it's very, very hard for an adversary to reach it. It's already an adversary, not a single hacker. And that adversary, once he arrives, we can shut down the node. You cannot move a data center. You can move a satellite or shut it down. We are also taking every single file, breaking it up into tens of thousands of packets and randomizing them in the loop, which means you need to take down the entire data center if you want 1 file. You can add quantum encryption to it because it's all in photonic state, and you can upload and downlink the data straight to the data center without touching in terrestrial networks, which is all what we want because terrestrial networks could be a vulnerability. This is the example of the data center that's being built today, the biggest one in the world, and the actual cost of manufacturing the commodity is cheaper for us by a lot. We have very low environmental impact. You do not need infrastructure to access a data center or to build a data center. An uplink and downlink site is enough, and you can access it even from Nowhere Island, which is a real place. You can access it from anywhere, as we said, but you can also access any amount, which means you can open on tap huge amounts of storage, hundreds of petabytes, and it's super elastic for a day, for a month, for an hour, for a year, and close it down. It is a storage system and a communication system at once, which means you can get any file to any user end to end sub 45 milliseconds. But if he doesn't need within 45 milliseconds, he can use it in 45 days, 45 weeks, or 45 minutes. It is one asset that does communication and storage at the same time, but it also ensures that the file that the user downloads at the end is the most updated one, ensuring a unified set of data. The law that will apply to the data is the law that will apply to the user, because no one has jurisdiction over space proper, not over satellites, over space, and that's where the data is stored. And the data itself is produced, a lot of it, in space today, Earth observation, etc. Why not analyze it in space and then just download the 2-3% that we actually need and throw away the rest if that's the case what the user wants. But as I said, we're not just about satellites. We can build a tube which works exactly the same. It could be a permanent, it could be movable. The value of doing a tube is that it will store 300 to 500 times, not percent, times the amount of data in the same footprint, super secure, and a lot more energy efficient. The same thing with a cavity, which uses exactly the same technology, just with smaller scale, tens of centimeters to single-digit meters, and will store gigabytes to hundreds of petabytes of storage. And we can also use fiber, saving floor space and saving power. And as I said, it's a reality. It has worked. This is not a graphic that you may be able to see on the screen now. It is a screenshot. And that screenshot is of a system that stored data for over a month on end. It is self-healing, it is redundant, and we haven't lost a packet yet, let alone a file. We do have a relatively large IP portfolio of 5 patents in the US, plus dozens worldwide, which is pretty extensive for a company our size. We are a team of 13 people. You may be able to see on the screen our 5 key people, personnel. We are hiring extensively, so if anybody wants to join, we're happy to have you. And we're going to be in space in 3 years, and would love for you to come and join our mission. Thank you so much. Have a great day.
Chose to be a Sherpa because the Accelerator program is really a cutting-edge program where you get a chance to interact with up-and-coming companies with really exciting technologies, and the chance to be part of that is really exciting for not only for me but for Sierra Nevada Corporation as well. The highlight so far really has been a chance to interact and get to know the various people associated with the companies, also with the Catalyst campus professionals, and chance to learn more about Catalyst campus, and a chance to hear from the different DoD professionals and acquisition experts and people like from Air Force research labs and other things.
Now I'd like to introduce you to our next company, Astropi Corporation, located in Dallas, Texas. Our presenter is David Shaw, co-founder and chief commercialization officer.
So we're in a great power competition, and we're losing ground to our adversaries. Enabling secure communications for satellite networks that are congested and contested is key for fighting SATCOM, for extending our capability gap, for overwhelmingly winning this great power competition. Astropi introduces a new, advanced, secure SATCOM capability we call symbol waveform hopping. It's never been done before. Our adversaries have no knowledge of it yet. So, symbol waveform hopping rests on the shoulders of spiral modulation. That enables the warfighters to take full advantage of the symbol waveform design space to secure SATCOM. Our mission is to license symbol waveform hopping into the software-defined radios that support these congested, contested satellite networks. For the Space Force, the SMC, the Air Combat Command, and many others, electronic warfare is a #1 priority for maintaining and continuing resilient SATCOM. There is an acute need to develop multiple software-defined radios that enable resilient communications so that we can overcome and persist in the face of electronic warfare. This is why we're here. Symbol waveform hopping is an advanced signal protection approach that makes it almost impossible to intercept and decode a transmission without knowing the pseudo-random sequence of symbol waveform alphabets that are used in the transmission. And of course, those may be changed from symbol to symbol. We provide transmission security in the physical layer. It means we block recognition of the signal itself. Unlike frequency hopping, symbol waveform hopping operates in the time domain, and it's theoretically unbreakable if the signal to noise power ratio is used correctly. Unlike encryption, symbol waveform hopping does not generate latency, and symbol waveform hopping may be used in concert with encryption and/or frequency hopping to provide additional layers of protection. So our adversaries aren't waiting around. The near-peer capability gap's closing. Our customers are telling us they want to see our second generation radio. Our first generation radio, we're able to demonstrate a 3 to 4 dB win in required signal power. That's over a factor of 2. Significantly, we've not optimized the polynomials we use to construct the signals. We have not dropped in our core technology. The second generation Xilinx software-defined radio platform enables us to do so. We need funding to hire engineers. We need funding to accelerate development of this software-defined radio platform. We need funding to accelerate transition into the warfighter's hands. Strapi's raised over $2.8 million in private investment. We executed a license with Space Strategies Consulting Limited on a Beyond Line of Sight project. We have validated multiple use cases with a growing list of commercial customers. Among them are iDirect, Hughes, Viasat, Telesat, Advantech Wireless, Space Micro, Kepler, and others. We've also got growing defense interest. We've secured an MOU from the Space Missile Command for a proposal that we recently submitted with an accomplished software-defined radio manufacturer that has over 1 million hours of space heritage. So our customer discovery efforts have led us to communication channels that are capacity and signal power constrained and susceptible to increasing amounts of interference. Enterprise VSAT satellite is an $8 billion market. The service available market for Strapi is approximately $460 million. To be clear, we intend to license our capability into the 2.2 billion smart devices that ship annually. That is a $40 billion opportunity for us. It doesn't include backhaul, IoT, defense, or multiple other applications. So we very much are a dual use capability that addresses enormous commercial and defense markets. So we wouldn't be here today were it not for AFWERX. We recently secured an MOU from the SMC and submitted a very strong proposal with a strong teaming partner. We're exploring other opportunities for that now as well. Our model is to license our secure SATCOM capability into the software-defined radios that support these congested SATCOM networks. As mentioned, we've got very strong relationships and are under NDA with multiple defense and commercial transition partners. That enables us to de-risk and accelerate transition to get this capability in the warfighter's hands quickly. We do this by leveraging our existing SIBRs into phase 2 contracts through rapid prototyping agreements or our memberships in the Space Enterprise, the National Spectra, C5, and other consortia using OTA authority. We're also in market for a $5 million Series A round of funding now. So the transition path here is really straightforward. We migrate our software-defined radios using the state-of-the-art Xilinx platform with symbol waveform hopping into our customers' environments, their lab environments. They test and optimize against their specific channel conditions. They then migrate it into their radios that are mill-grade, radiation-hardened, tested over the air and in the field before migrating into the warfighter's hands via an existing or new program of record. So the Strapi team are the subject matter experts in symbol waveform hopping and spiral modulation. Dr. Gerald Prothero is the inventor. He's the CEO and founder of Strapi. He's got a background in physics and computer science and an interdisciplinary PhD. Dr. Tanai Bott and Jim Sterling, both double E's, have over 25 years experience in wireless and satellite communications. Myself and Andy Roscoe each have over 30 years experience in commercializing new ventures and operating early stage companies. We externally validated our first generation radio with Space Strategies Consulting Limited on a Beyond Line of Sight project. Significantly, they're led by the former Director General Space Defense of Canadian Armed Services. We validated our software-enabled spectrum analyzer with NIWC Atlantic in our original setup. We've won Phase 1 and Phase 2 SBIRs with the National Science Foundation. We're very proud to have won an inaugural AFWERX Phase 1 award. We're now developing our second generation radio using the state-of-the-art Xilinx platform. We've got 3 of them in-house. We're ready to accelerate development. We need funding to do that so that we can validate that with our defense and commercial customers. We got this advanced secure communication capability. It's never been seen before. It addresses multiple challenge areas for defense and commercial applications. We need funding now to accelerate development of the prototype so that we can quickly get this in the warfighter's hands, so that we can extend our capability gap and overwhelmingly win this great power competition.
The highlights of my Sherpa experience have been just meeting with Astropi and meeting with some of the other teams also, and just talking to them about what their technology is and where they are in their journey as a company, understanding the technology that they're presenting to the Catalyst Accelerator, and just being amazed by the intellect behind that and the amount of thought that they put into these innovative ideas and that they're bringing to the space mission and the cyber resilient space problem set. Booz Allen is always looking to meet with new small businesses that are bringing new innovations to the problems that our clients are facing. The number one goal of Booz Allen is to embrace the problems that our clients have. And let's be honest, we don't always have the exact solution. And we're looking for those companies that we can partner with to bring that solution to our clients. And outside of the natural need for large companies to need to partner with smaller businesses as a part of government mandates, we really look at that as just an added value to the team and the problem solving that we're trying to bring to each and every delivery that we have. And the Catalyst Accelerator has been a great opportunity for us to learn about new technologies, learn about new companies that we haven't met before, and just see what else is out there.
Next in line, I would like to introduce Corlina Incorporated. Corlina has offices around the world. With us today is CEO Antonio J. Espinosa. Take it away, Antonio.
Corlina is a security trust software system that provides a continuous measure of confidence so that an IoT system is trustworthy with a verifiable and immutable record of the integrity of observations made by applications deployed on the trusted IoT system. I am Tony Espinosa, the CEO and founder of Corlina. This presentation is to introduce the audience to compelling innovative technology that warrants your attention and interest to engage with Corlina on opportunities for an IoT security project. No matter how you look at it, IoT is on an accelerated path to being pervasive, on the ground, in the ocean, and in space. One can only imagine the complexity of IoT and edge devices, which can come in all types of sizes and shapes and standards. We can always ask ourselves, how do you architect uniformity where the attack surface is both defined and, more importantly, undefined? Or a satellite facing a space weather storm, is it flipping bits or is it a bad actor? How do you ensure that your IoT strategy and implementation is worthy of trust? That's what we bring to the table. So let's have a look at the Corlina innovation. Let's think about this concept. Instead of looking at IoT security in a singular plane, now adversaries have to work through a multi-layered, multivariate matrix. This matrix will not only take into account known attack vectors, but more importantly, undefined, undetermined attack vectors that we do not know about due to the undiscovered country of IoT. In simple terms, we establish a matrix security shield on a device, a group of devices, a system, or a system of systems. These observations, in combination with our deep algorithms, determines an immutable, unique signature for the devices and the group of devices or systems.
Hi, I'm Samir Merchant, CTO at Corlina, and I'm going to talk about how we actually establish trustworthiness and measure trustworthiness of an IoT system. So why does trust matter? We live in a world which is data-driven. Whether it's an autonomous systems like a self-driving car or a drone or a completely self-operating systems, or it's a machine learning, AI, deep learning system, which all are dependent on data. So it's not only essential to just make sure that you collect, you transport, and securely save the data, but you also want to know the integrity of the data, who collected it, when, where, and how. And that's what we actually believe is an essential component of any intelligent system, and that's what we provide at Corlina. Our Corlina is an active monitoring system which observes all the parameters of our IoT devices, whether it's the hardware, the peripherals, the operating system, the application running on it, the behavior of those systems. And we actively push this information to our trust framework. And we and the trust framework actually use a patented technology to represent this whole parameter and attributes that we've collected in a very high-dimensional vector space, what we call the matrix of observation. And we use this matrix of observation to compare against a baseline, which can be easily established through our active monitoring as well. And we further go ahead and actually put it all together in a graph, a dependency graph model, which allows you to actually not only look at the integrity of a single system as an individual, but as a collective. And that becomes an essential component as well, because you want to trust as the whole solution is trusted and you can act in confidence with the data that was collected with it. We further extend our trust domain, not only on the systems and peripherals, but also the observations which are made on the system. We actually issue a trust token, which is an immutable record of what the condition of systems were, and also associate that with the integrity of the data, and which can be, the token can be associated with the observation made, and can be verified at any later stage to make sure that the data which was collected has not been compromised, and when it was collected, the system was in trustworthy state. That means the systems were behaving as expected. And that's what we believe is an essential component. And our trust solution basically gives you that opportunity to actually maintain a historical record, immutable record of all the observations and the conditions of the system, so you can act in confidence in a data-driven world that your data is not being compromised. And that's what we think is an essential component of any intelligent system.
At our inception, we worked closely with a commercial Global 100 chief architect and his staff, along with the several other firms, to define and architect the specific requirements for the industrial sector. For example, what you are seeing is a snapshot to Corlina's Global 100 customer that has provided a real-time view where Corlina sits at the heart of a trusted manufacturing assembly of an elevator parts factory. What's important to note is that the devices are sensors, gateways, drills, badges, video cameras to have a record and provide assurance of a product that is worthy of trust. Allow me to walk you through a quick snapshot of the Corlina system. Corlina's dashboard provides a real-time global view on IoT assets in its respective state. London, for example, is a group of devices for a system. The dashboard provides the ability to drill down on a location to a more detailed view. At the heart of the Corlina solution is the Trust Score. The Trust Score is governed by Corlina's patented algorithm that compares the desired state to the actual observed state. Digital provenance, or what we like to say steady state, is represented as a Trust Score of 100 for either a location, a system, a group of devices, or an individual device. As an example, a remote device has been altered from its desired state, potentially representing an adversarial threat. Corlina has detected the drift and recorded the observed change of state of the device itself. The Corlina algorithms adjust the change in the desired state, represented here by the Trust Score. Our efforts have led to partnerships and lighthouse accounts in the commercial sector targeted at the industrial and supply chain sector. The Catalyst program has been phenomenal in introducing Corlina to the Air Force and Space Force ecosystem. Our current state is that we have submitted Phase 1 SBIRs to the National Science Foundation and AFWERX. Similarly, we have submitted an Army AL proposal. Through the Catalyst program and working closely with the ecosystem, several use cases have come to the surface to explore possible fits within the DoD. The way we look at it, there's a whole new data set that can not only enhance the IoT security efforts, but also forthcoming AI and ML analysis to solidify the ramparts of IoT security and its trust chain. Corlina's architecture and patents have been recognized 3 years running. The most important one, and also the one we are most proud of, as being recognized by the Industrial Internet Consortium Trustworthiness Group in a published paper as the model for established IoT security and trustworthiness. The Corlina Core Team DNA is a combination of deep security and networking architecture and expertise at Cisco, Telerian, Apple, and Trilliant to complement the global business and operations acumen. Collectively, we have done it before with solid success. We have worked together previously as a team, and we are excited and passionate about the innovative technology that we have brought forth as the IoT market continues to evolve. Corlina's trust platform and innovation resulted in 4 patents securing its position as a thought leader in IoT security. Our drive on innovation continues to push the envelope with an additional 4 work-in-process IoT and trust chain concepts. As Corlina is new to the arena, we want to show to the DoD and federal government that the Corlina Trust Platform has a place in your IoT solution framework. We truly believe that we can contribute to the effort to provide direction and innovation in the efforts to not only properly secure the IoT assets, but also complement and enhance mission assurance through IoT strategy. Our objective is 1. Dialogue with the federal ecosystem on sponsorship and guidance, 2. Execution support on cyber and DoD engagements, and 3. Partnerships with primes and DoD project leads.
Security and IoT are inexplicably intertwined.
We have big ideas, solid visions on where we can take this. I invite you to connect with Corlina directly.
We chose to be a Sherpa because we believe in giving back to the small business community and supporting our community through Catalyst Campus.
Yeah, one of the highlights from our Sherpa experience was being able to have coffee in person with the CEO of Corlina in Colorado Springs while they were in town. Semblin Tech recently graduated from small business to large business in 2019, so we understand the importance of interfacing with small business community, and the Sherpa program at the Catalyst campus has helped us meet that mission.
We've now heard from 3 amazing companies. Our next one is from Austin, Texas. David Goodman is the CEO and founder of Vitro Technology Corporation. Take it away, David.
Greetings, I'm David Goodman, founder and CEO of Vitro Technology here in Austin, Texas. Vitro makes zero trust hardware and software for command and control of remote equipment. Zero trust authentication is the last line of digital defense for our warfighters and the equipment that they depend on. The problem of securing command and control messaging spans operational theaters and a hybrid of data networks. In addition, multi-domain operations need to coordinate between data sets created by millions of sensors, vehicles, and munitions. Command and control needs to be secured from centralized EGS to contested operations in the field, or CDOs. The 1553 bus is the military standard for local area connections to equipment in the field. The bus is embedded in millions of units of deployed operational equipment worldwide. And 1553 presents a clear and present danger to our warfighters and the equipment that they depend on. Several public challenges, including the recent Hackasat event, have documented 1553 vulnerabilities. And our Sherpa at the Catalyst this year, Lockheed Martin, have also documented vulnerabilities within their program called Hack the Bus. And MITRE Corporation is currently working on the CROWS and SMACS projects to address messaging vulnerabilities with Vitro Zero Trust hardware and software in their labs. As a part of our work with MITRE Corporation, we dug into the fundamentals of the 1553 bus architecture in the open source community, and we were able to locate an excellent quality simulator. Unfortunately, a deeper dive into the documentation of the code revealed that our adversaries are actually ahead of us. To fully understand the problem with the 1553 bus and its security, we have to define some key terms. The first is cybersecurity. Cybersecurity, and I'm reading from Cisco's website, is the practice of protecting systems, networks, and programs from digital attacks. There are two notable issues here. The first is that data is never mentioned. And the second is that a practice is an effort, not a guarantee, of security or authenticity of anything delivered by that system. Authentication, on the other hand, is a mathematical proof, a guarantee of data integrity and data origin. And the final definition is zero trust. Zero trust is a philosophy, not a product. Zero trust philosophy dictates that there is no secure perimeter anywhere. All access to network resources needs to be authenticated. So how does all this come together? Cybersecurity is focused on data in motion, data secured with protocols like TLS, SSL, or even on 1553. The current approach to 1553 security involves filtering all traffic on the bus, all data in motion, for known attacks and anomalies. But this practice requires a specific piece of hardware called an FPGA that costs in excess of $20,000 to monitor one 1553 bus. At Vitro, we're using $20 of commercial off-the-shelf parts to create authentication for command and control messages on a 1553 bus. Not filtering the entire bus for all messages and traffic, but just filtering for the command and control signals that are critical to the operation of remote equipment protecting our warfighters. To accomplish this, Vitro reframes the 1553 problem by shifting authentication left to the remote equipment in the field. This model creates a last line of digital defense for our warfighters. IOTC blocks are data that are encrypted, hashed, and signed at EGS command and control. IOTC blocks remain secret and secure in transit and at rest on their way to the target device in the field, which controls the private key that only that device can decrypt and authenticate the payload delivered directly from EGS command and control. The private key is autonomously generated and never shared, guaranteeing that only the target device has the credentials to authenticate and decrypt the message sent from command and control to the target device directly. The Vitro Shard is a miniaturized hardened hardware element designed to authenticate messages in under 300 milliseconds. Vitro also has an open source development platform that breaks out the interfaces from the Shard to a wide variety of analog and digital devices, including sensors, vehicles, and munitions. Vitro's Zero Trust command and control architecture is at TRL level 6, ready for demonstration. At Vitro, our goal is to substitute a $20,000 device operating a network security architecture on the 1553 bus with a $20 device targeting the devices attached to the 1553 bus with message authentication from the command and control center at EGS. This difference creates huge opportunities for cost savings and is the key focus of our development effort. I thank you for your time and attention in learning about Vitro's Zero Trust command and control architecture. And I wish to express our appreciation to the Catalyst Accelerator for this opportunity and for all of their support.
There can often be barriers for small businesses to bring their technology to the Department of Defense. And so Lockheed Martin sees themselves as a facilitator to be able to break down some of those barriers and bring that technology to solve some of the Department of Defense's toughest challenges that are out there. Lockheed Martin engages with small businesses in many ways. One of the ways that we engage with small businesses is through our ventures portion of our company. Ventures invests in small businesses. Another way that we engage with small businesses is through opportunities, contract opportunities, either in a sub or a prime role. We're always actively seeking relationships with small businesses. We would definitely recommend other companies participate in the Accelerator and to be a Sherpa for the cohort companies. Just do it. It's an amazing opportunity to find new technology and to develop critical relationships to help the Department of Defense's initiatives.
Next, I would like to introduce Gentry Lane, CEO and founder of Innova Intelligence, located in Silver Spring, Maryland.
Adversaries are undeterred. For the major threat actors, cyber warfare is a highly effective means to achieve their mission of degrading American freedom and prosperity. Cyber warfare is affordable, invisible, and anonymous. These APTs have the United States locked into an alive, persistent, asymmetric cyber conflict that they are winning. The increasing sophistication of near-peer competitors and escalating frequency of attacks demands a different approach.
If a nation-state cyber army has you in their crosshairs, they're going to get in because the predominant defense strategy isn't working. We built these layered security stacks, fortified with dozens of mostly commercial, off-the-shelf cybersecurity products. And while a layered stack is useful, it's not a viable defense strategy because APTs are not deterred. These security stacks are like cyber Maginot Lines. It doesn't matter how many cutting-edge defenses you put in there, APTs can just go around. So instead of asking, well, what can we put in our security stack that would work? I think the whole question needs to be reframed. I think the better question to ask is, what strategic framework deters adversary aggression in a live, asymmetric conflict where both the civilian sector and allies are part of theater? And that question generates a very different response. And it's why I started my company.
Release the Raptor and gain the defender's advantage.
You can't completely stop the adversary, but you can deter cyber aggression by imposing costs and denying them the opportunity to embed. But in order to do that, you have to be able to find and attribute APT behavior at first breach. Rapid attribution is important because it removes the anonymity and deniable plausibility. Raptor catches APT behavior before they've had the chance to land and expand. So when this rapid detection and attribution is happening at scale, it sends a strong signal that they will be discovered and compromising critical systems will not be tolerated.
Nation-state cyber armies know what's in your stack and design their weapons specifically to slip past your defenses. Fileless malware, rootkits, 0 days, and other low observable characteristic attacks are undetectable by commercial endpoint security software.
There is only one way to find evidence of the small, incremental, elusive APT behavior, and that's to run memory forensics. It's the industry standard. It's systematically run post-breach, but it takes one expert, 1 day to scan one host. Until now.
The Raptor leverages AI and deep learning to automate endpoint memory forensics at scale. Innova's patented algorithmic approach finds the elusive fileless malware and LOC attack that other commercial solutions miss with unprecedented accuracy and a low false positive rate.
Raptor takes a totally novel, pure computational approach to anomaly detection in endpoints. And in plain English, this means we use a bunch of fancy math to find the tiny discrete changes that indicate APT behavior, APT activity in any endpoint. Endpoints are laptops, desktops, servers, even satellites, military vehicles. Anything that runs software is an endpoint. So our algorithms and neural networks, the fancy math, are not only much more accurate at pattern matching than humans are, it's much, much faster. And remember, memory forensics right now takes one person 1 day to scan one host, But with the Raptor, you can scan 10,000 hosts in about 90 seconds. If you wanted to run a full memory forensic scan of the 3 million endpoints that touch the Doden network, that would take about 30 minutes. When was the last time there was a forensic scan of all 3 million endpoints? Yeah, never. If this sounds like it's a big deal and a big discovery, it's because it is.
Raptor was developed in partnership with Oak Ridge National Laboratory's Computational Security Department. ORNL is a top-secret department of Energy Lab best known for building the atomic bomb, always on the cutting edge of war technology. Now it's home to the world's fastest supercomputer and the brightest minds in software-defined weaponry. Funding for Raptor's research and development was provided by the Department of Energy and Department of Homeland Security.
Our software is built by the government for the government. We're a mission-first company with a 100% American citizen security-cleared workforce. Innova is venture-backed with trusted capital. This means that none of our investors have LPs and ties to countries of special concern. We are the real deal. And my goal is to provide the warfighter with a sustainable, ubiquitous, low-cost, easy to deploy, immediate way to achieve deterrence by denial. This cyber Maginot Line strategy is not working, and Raptor is the cornerstone for deterrence by denial. The answer to that earlier question, the cohesive, sustainable, strategic framework that deters adversary aggression in a live asymmetric conflict where both the civilian sector and allies are part of theater.
Rapid discovery and attribution at scale is just the first step. Deterrence by denial requires a coordinated defense strategy, and Raptor delivers. Raptors gives a God view of all critical endpoints, whether they're networked or not, anywhere in the world. Run a full forensic scan in minutes without disruption to the end user. All analysis happens on-prem or in the cloud in your secure operations center. And because Raptor analyzes behavior in binary code, no sensitive files are ever in transit or processed. One system analyzes both high-side and low-side endpoints without reading files. The Raptor aggregates validated APT breach data across endpoints in all domains. A suite of neural networks analyze APT behavior over time to find patterns that show who, when, where, and how the adversary is likely to strike next. Raptor is a software-enabled cyber weapon system that serves the dozens of stakeholders responsible for keeping APTs out and American freedom and prosperity in. The Raptor is OS and architecture agnostic, currently at TRL7. And best of all, the Raptor requires no contractors or extensive training to run. Raptor generates the forensic data essential to chain of evidence and compresses time from incident discovery to appropriate military, diplomatic, or prosecutorial response. Release the Raptor and shift the tactical advantage to your favor.
The ask. I am looking for government customers who would like to see a demo, government agencies who could help accelerate our product development, primes who would benefit from not only using our technology to protect their own critical endpoints, but also for their supply chain of vendors and their government customers. Agencies that would be interested in our intelligence products from monitoring APT activity in the civilian sector. And last, trusted capital from investors that would like to accelerate Innova's standing among the next generation of defense contractors. Anybody who wants to help me keep the American prosperity and freedom in and the bad guys out.
Being a Sherpa gives us the ability to give back to some of those companies. As a startup ourselves, we started off as a garage startup back in 1986. We see the value of getting good guidance, being able to understand the environment, and then look to put new and game-changing capabilities out in the market. As a small startup company, from our roots that started as a small startup from 3 guys in the garage, we see the value and the need of having the right partners. We seek to continue that opportunity here with these companies and other companies. And I would say the advice to them is be ready for a fast-paced environment. The second is leverage the opportunity to talk with your Sherpa and other Sherpas and have those conversations, maybe not specifically on a business pieces, but trying to share experiences, perspectives, I think is valuable for both.
Our next presenter is Jeremiah Steptoe, CEO of CyberCentric out of New York City.
Hi everyone. Unfortunately, we were not able to join you guys all live in Colorado Springs this year due to the COVID-19 situation. So I'm joining you all from my apartment here in New York City. I'm Jay Steptoe. I'm the founder and CEO of CyberCentric Technologies Inc. Protecting sensitive data is important. However, for organizations with tens of thousands of devices and tens or hundreds of thousands of employees, finding where sensitive data resides on your internal network remains a challenge. Ensuring that information that should be on a SIPR network is not on a NIPR network also remains a challenge. CyberCentric is a data categorization company. We enable organizations to know precisely where their most sensitive data is, who has access to it, and how that information has been used since it was first detected on the organization's network. In 2015, the Office of Personnel Management discovered that over 21.5 million personnel files or records were exfiltrated from their internal network. Now, I, like many of you, I was involved in that particular exfiltration. And it took over 2 years before I was ever notified of the breach. This isn't uncommon, as over 70% of organizations struggle to detect data breaches. And even more importantly, when there is a data breach, the magnitude of that data breach, detailing what information was actually exfiltrated. Was it schematics for an F-35? Was it war plans or troop movements? Was it top secret information that was exfiltrated? At the heart of our technology is a proprietary artificial intelligence system that has a unique ability to understand what information sets should be considered sensitive or classified. The system then takes automated steps to prevent sensitive or classified information from being used or accessed by persons who aren't authorized to use, view, or access that information. Our technology has a wide array of applicable use cases, whether it's meeting compliance demands such as GDPR, high trust HIPAA related data, or other regulatory demands, insider threat detection, data leak prevention, forensics, or perhaps even cloud security. Let's have a look at a specific insider threat forensics use case. It sort of illustrates a little bit of how the platform works. In the implementation phase of the software, the solution is able to access the employees within the organization. Similarly, the platform is also able to detect the machines that are located on the organization. In fact, oftentimes, many of our customers are discovering that there are devices located on the network that they did not know was on the network. CyberCentric is able to not only show the organizations that those devices are on the network, but we're able to show them what type of data is actually located on those devices as well. Financial services companies make up the vast majority of our current customer base. So in this example, we will look at a document that we will name trading strategy. Similarly, you can name a document F-35 schematics, top secret, or whatever may be relevant for your agency or organization. After the system performs its learning process, a centralized user can search for every document on the network that is given the name trading strategy or that contains information similar to the organization's trading strategy. Within seconds, the platform identifies information that is exactly similar to the organization's trading strategy. It shows the files, where they're stored, and what users on the organization have access to those files. A centralized user can then drill into the specific users in this particular case. And as we can see, we can see where that user has emailed this information, if it has been emailed to persons within the organization or outside of the organization, whether or not that information was uploaded into an insecure cloud storage device, or even uploaded onto a thumb drive. Our system then takes automated steps to prevent data types of interest from being exfiltrated from the organization's internal network. In fact, let's have a look at a cloud security use case. Over 80% of commercial organizations are currently implementing a hybrid cloud operation today. Ensuring that classified or sensitive information isn't used in these cloud environments is at the heart of the security challenges concerning using these platforms. With the implementation of government cloud platforms, many of you here share inherent risk that exists when organizations are moving data into cloud environments. CyberCentric gives organizations the ability to ensure that only information of the appropriate classification level moves into those cloud repositories. In closing, there are two types of data breaches. Data breaches that you've had and you know about them, and data breaches that you've had and you don't yet know about them. So the question is simple. Where is your most sensitive data? Who has access to it? And how is that information being used? It's estimated that the average data breach isn't discovered until 6 months after the breach has occurred. With the new workforce environment that was created by the COVID-19 outbreak, a brand new threat vector has been created, and agencies have had very little time to prepare. Organizations were forced to have positions working from home that have never worked from home before. It is undoubtedly the case that many of you watching this presentation today will discover that over the last 6 months, you've had exfiltrations of sensitive data, likely on a scale never before seen. By deploying CyberCentric, we hope to give your agency the ability to not only discover data breaches in real time, but prevent them from happening in the first place. We have deployed our solution to over 50 organizations, and we hope to add you to our list of users in the very near future. Thank you for taking time to learn a little bit more about our company, and I hope that we're able to connect in the near future.
The other part, I think, so far has been the one-on-one sessions. Even though that was marathon and 4 hours almost straight of discussions and things like that, getting to know the other companies in the cohort, the capabilities they brought, the way they're thinking about things and approaching things was just, it was a great day. The ability to meet and understand what other folks are doing is a really powerful thing, especially for the defense industry as we look to maintain, our superior edge in the world. And, I think this is one way to bring things that wouldn't normally come into the thinking of how you could solve problems and bring capability to bear in that industry.
We only have 2 presenters left. The first one is out of Nashville, Tennessee. Please welcome Michael Bryant, CEO of ARM Cyber.
Thank you all for taking the time today to talk with us about one of the most important issues in space, cybersecurity. My name is Mike Bryant. I'm the CEO of ARM Cyber, and I'm excited today to tell you about our zero vulnerability technology, the new best-in-class cybersecurity solution for applications and containers. We utilize moving target defense techniques to minimize the attack surface and to drastically reduce the likelihood of a successful zero-day attack. Our team has the business and technical acumen to bring this disruptive technology to the DoD and the private markets. Our team has launched startups, built and grown tech products at places like Amazon and Scilera, written code that is on Mars, and won multiple Best Paper awards from places like the Department of Homeland Security and the NSA. Our core technology was born out of a need by the government to defend against zero-day attacks, and that is why the PhD research of Dr. Bradley Pottinger, our strategic R&D advisor, was funded by AFRL and NSA. Software has an Achilles heel. Software is similar. In an effort to make software more easily integratable and scalable, we have also created an environment to where mass hacks can easily propagate across the entire world. If you take the time to find a vulnerability, you have now hacked every single application or container package across the world that uses that exact version. If you've hacked one, you've hacked them all. And that's why software being similar is such a problem. You can now go from application to application to application, and that vulnerability will be in the same exact spot. It is estimated that every year, around $100 billion in damage is caused from cyber attacks. Now, most companies focus on the top layer of the stack, which is their own code, to harden it, to prevent it from being breached. But in actuality, most vulnerabilities come from the bottom 4 layers. We specifically focus on the library and the third-party software layers, and that is where we apply our zero vulnerability technology to prevent against zero-day attacks. Now, let's take a look at some statistics on just how vulnerable code really is and why the software similarity problem needs to be fixed immediately. Upon creation, there's roughly 70 vulnerabilities per 1,000 lines of code, of which 15 of those make it into the final product. Pair this with the fact that it takes about 30 times longer to fix a vulnerability than to just write new code. And so this creates legacy software that is just built upon rather than actually being fixed. So now you've got code that was written in the 70s and 80s that's still in space today on satellites or flying on airplanes. And the longer that static code is out there, the higher likelihood that an adversary is going to conduct reconnaissance and find a vulnerability. Some recent examples of attacks that could have been mitigated using our zero vulnerability technology include WannaCry, the ransomware attacks against Atlanta and Baltimore, and most recently, Hall County, Georgia, which was held ransom over voter data information about a week before the election. On the malware side, you have Pegasus, and you also have NotPetya. NotPetya was the Russian attack in eastern Ukraine on the power grid there during their low-intensity war. That malware propagated to Copenhagen and Maersk, the world's largest shipper, which shut down ports all over the world to include those in the United States. On the virus side, you had the Trump campaign website that was defaced, you have Code Red, and then most famously, you have Stuxnet, which had 4 zero-day attacks included in that attack. Currently, machine learning and artificial intelligence do a great job of protecting your systems from attacks once those attacks have been detected. But how do you protect your system from a zero-day attack, which by definition has never been seen before? Artificial intelligence and machine learning are of zero help against zero-day attacks. The solution here lies with our zero vulnerability technology, which autonomously micropatches known vulnerabilities and pairs it with our intelligent software scrambling to protect against zero-day attacks. Think radio frequency hopping, but for software, or constantly moving the goalpost. By constantly shuffling or moving around the code, you now can protect against these attacks, because when an adversary finds a vulnerability and then they go into the other applications or container packages, those vulnerabilities are now in a different spot. So now they have to start all over again. And we do this by doing our micropatching autonomously at compile time and then randomizing the memory at load time. A good way to visualize what we do is to think of a neighborhood block with 20 houses on it. Every single house has a front door, back door, side windows, and a skylight, all located in the same exact location, and they all use the same locks. So when a burglar finds a vulnerability, let's just say on the side window, they now can just go from house to house to house, going in the same window using the same method. But when you utilize our zero vulnerability technology, all of the windows and all of the doors are constantly moving. So now, for each house, that burglar has to start all over again. And the time, effort, and money the burglar now has to invest to get into all 20 of these houses literally goes through the roof. We deliver our zero vulnerability technology in two distinct ways. First is an on-site customizable product that targets your legacy software. This way you can add an extra layer of security by hardening your code that's not going anywhere anytime soon. Second is our secure package repository for your DevOps pipeline. You can now pull pre-scrambled packages to build into your containers that are structurally different yet functionally the same. We are here today seeking partnerships with three different types of entities. First, our government and prime contractors to where we can advance this technology within the government. Second, our enterprise clients who are looking to secure their systems from nation-state hackers. And third, our venture investors who may be interested in our 2021 venture raise. The Armed Cyber team thanks you for listening to us today.
Great presentation, Mike. Thank you. Our final presentation today is from Jarvis Roach, Engineering Manager at DornerWorks, located in Grand Rapids, Michigan.
I'm Jarvis Roach, Group Manager from DornerWorks. DornerWorks is an engineering services company specializing in technology that improves security, safety, and cost effectiveness of the dedicated computer electronics embedded in the devices of your system. Unlike my cohort colleagues, our services and products probably won't directly make your life easier, unless you like to sling code in your spare time, but we can help your teams and your suppliers develop boxes that do more at less cost with greater security and safety. So before I dive deeper into the technology, I just want to ask for you to share this presentation with the technologists and the development leads on your teams and on your suppliers' teams, who are responsible for getting the most out of their device's hardware. A powerful technique called hardware virtualization is now fully supported by microprocessors used in devices with embedded computer electronics. Virtualization is like the matrix for software, where artificial environments, called virtual machines or VMs, are created for software to run in. It's as if they were running by themselves directly on real hardware. The hypervisor that creates these artificial environments also controls the data that flows in and out, enabling a number of benefits and use cases. One such use case we've been hearing a lot of as part of the Catalyst Space Accelerator program is securing legacy and open source software stacks. With legacy software, significant effort has gone into designing, coding, and testing. And the last thing anyone wants to do is make changes that require revalidation of the whole system to ensure that the fix didn't make things worse. And sometimes you don't have the source code, tools, or talent to make a change, leaving you stuck with just the executable binary. While that wouldn't be the case if you're using the Linux open source software stack, you are looking at almost 28 million lines of code in the kernel. It's inevitable that there will be a bug that could be exploited in some fashion. In 2019 alone, there were 170 security vulnerabilities discovered in the kernel, 11 with a vulnerability score greater than 8 on a 10-point scale. In both of these cases, you're often forced to accept the risk of security vulnerabilities in your software, and you need to find a way to mitigate that risk. Hardware virtualization and hypervisors have been used in the past to mitigate this risk by running the legacy and open source software in a VM sandbox, locking down and controlling the inputs and outputs to them. There are commercial as well as open source hypervisors to choose from to accomplish this. However, picking one can be a difficult trade-off between cost, performance, flexibility, and support. Further, there's an additional configuration and integration effort required to get everything to work optimally, even when using a commercial solution. That's why DornerWorks is developing the VM Composer, a software development tool to configure, build, and deploy virtual machine-based software architectures to your devices. It saves you time, money, and resources, while quickly and easily providing the benefits of using virtual machines. NASA and the Army are helping fund development of new features and support for new hardware platforms. The VM Composer is the easy button to help your teams and suppliers get the most out of their hardware. Using it lets them focus on completing their mission instead of becoming an expert in yet another software technology. It also puts the flexibility to change and update designs in their hands. With VM Composer, your team can quickly get a framework of VMs up and running, letting them get down to the business of reducing unknowns and risks earlier in the development cycle. VM Composer leverages the open source SEL4 microkernel to provide the hypervisor functionality. That means you don't have to worry about per unit ongoing licensing fees. The VM Composer tool itself will be priced to provide significant savings compared to the non-recurring engineering efforts that it eliminates. Better still, SEL4 has been shown to be functionally correct via a mathematical formal proof, and is free of common defects such as buffer overflows. Because of its small size and open source nature, it can be easily inspected by your technical experts. It also has inherent access controls that provide rock-solid isolation between virtual machines. My team has been working with open source virtualization technology since 2010, and has been a self-supporting business group within DornaWorks since 2017. My group is projecting $2.1 million in revenue for 2020. We have won SBIRs in this area with the Navy, Army, DARPA, and NASA. SEL4 is at TRL 7 and has even flown in space, while the VM Composer is currently at TRL 4, moving to TRL 6, and market readiness by second quarter of 2021. We have several key partnerships with vendors of silicon and circuit boards, and with organizations such as the SEL4 Foundation and vendors of other hypervisor solutions. We also have several existing customers, including primes such as Raytheon, L3E Harris, and GE, as well as with the Army's Ground Vehicle Systems Center in eastern Michigan. Historically, DornaWorks has engaged in business-to-business direct sales, and I expect to continue with this model for VM Composer. However, we are exploring other possible approaches, such as providing VM Composer as a software as a service, which we think would appeal to startups and other companies watching their cash flow. Another option under consideration is working with board manufacturers, such as Avnet and Curtiss-Wright, to distribute a freemium version of VM Composer tool to their customers, so those customers can explore leveraging the power of virtualization without cost being a barrier, while still providing an upgrade path to a paid version of the tool for advanced features they will need for their final product. As we've worked with primes in the past in applying virtualization, we identified the need for a tool like VM Composer, but during the course of this Catalyst program, we learned that our best customers are the folks developing the hardware and software that go into the individual boxes that make up the overall system. Our future efforts will be focused on engaging with primes to earn their trust for introductions to their suppliers providing those boxes, while at the same time working with our hardware partners to find who they are providing chips and boards to for new designs. We will find our best customers somewhere in the middle by working both ends of the supply chain. DornaWorks was founded in 2000 in Grand Rapids, West Michigan, and is solely owned by David Dorner. In our 20-year history of providing engineering services to embedded product developers, we have grown from one man working out of his basement to an 84-person team, occupying a 3-building campus, targeting $17 million of revenue in 2020. Also during this time, we achieved ISO certification, were awarded 3 patents, made the Inner City 100 list 3 times, and won a GE Supplier Excellence Award. DornaWorks is ready to work with the government, with approved government cost accounting practices, successful CMMC pre-audits, and a cleared room developed per NISPCOM, ready for activation with a DD Form 254. So please share this presentation with the technologists and lead developers on your teams and on your suppliers' teams. If you're interested in use cases and other informational briefs, please join us virtually today, or contact us to schedule a call to discuss your specific mission needs. Thank you for your time.
The whole Sherpa experience really for me is getting some more exposure to all of the innovation that's out there. These people that are really excited and bringing energy to these mission areas that we've been dealing with for a long time. But you can start to view them in a way that's now new and different, and you can see what the impact can be. There's a lot of excitement in that. There's a lot of discovery within that. And I think for me, that's always been something that draws me to the Sherpa experience. As a Sherpa and being part of these experiences, I get to grow my network. I get to see where those innovative companies are. I get to start building relationships that last long beyond the program.
Thank you for joining us today, and thank you to the Catalyst Campus for Technology and Innovation for hosting us the past 13 weeks. I'm especially grateful for all the people previously mentioned. I'm especially grateful for the hard work and dedication of Ms. Danzel Green from SMC and Lieutenant Ryan Din from AFRL, our two government Sherpas for the program. Thank you to you both.
For those of you who are interested in connecting with one of the amazing companies you just heard from today, you can do so by either scrolling down on the screen that you're on our website or returning to our website at catalystaccelerator.space. And if you want to collaborate with other members of the audience, you can do so by clicking into the room called Cyber Collaboration Room. One final thank you to our sponsors. Thank you, Booz Allen Hamilton, for their corporate sponsorship, as well as Lindquist and Lockheed Martin for your support. We couldn't have done it without you. I also want to thank the government personnel and industry personnel who come together and rally behind these companies to make them successful. And finally, thank you to my team, to Shay, Dana, Mo, and Ed, and the Catalyst Campus Ops team that have worked hard behind the scenes to make this day possible. And now, to all of our audience members, enjoy your networking time.